Carol Mead left us 3 voicemails before she agreed to record a full account. The first 2 she deleted herself before we could save them. She called back and said, "I'm sorry. I keep starting and then I hear myself and I stop." We asked why. She said, "Because I sound fine. And I don't know if that's because I am fine, or because whatever happened wants me to sound that way." We asked what she meant. She said she'd explain in the recording. She did explain. We're not sure the explanation is reassuring. Her son Tyler provided a separate account. We'll include one detail from his account at the end. This is Carol. The first morning I found it, I thought the sink was backing up. A dark residue along the base of the backsplash, in the grout lines. I got a sponge. I touched it. That was September 4th. Everything I'm going to tell you starts there. My name is Carol Mead. I'm 44 years old. I manage operations for a distribution company. I've done that for 12 years. I live alone in Salem. Have for 6 years since the divorce. I want to be specific about who I am before this started. I run a department of 14 people. I manage schedules, logistics, conflict, budget variance. My job is to identify problems and solve them before they compound. I am not someone who panics. I am not someone who imagines things. I need you to hold on to that. Because what I'm about to describe, I know how it sounds. I've said it out loud to myself every day for 4 months. It still sounds the way it sounds. My memory of the first 6 weeks is precise. After the 3rd contact, I'll tell you what I remember. I'll tell you where the gaps are. I won't fill the gaps with guesses. The house was built in 1887. I bought it in 2019. Old houses in Salem. You accept certain things. Pipes that knock. Drafts from nowhere. The smell of old wood when it rains. I know this house. 3 things relevant to what follows. The kitchen sink is original to the house. Porcelain, cast iron basin. The drain has always been slow. I'd had it snaked twice in 5 years. My son Tyler visits every few weeks. He's 19, first year at UMass. He has his own key, and I keep the house clean. I say that not out of vanity. I say it because when I tell you what I found in the grout lines, I need you to know it wasn't neglect. I am meticulous. The kitchen is always clean. Whatever was in the grout lines was not there the night before. September 4th, 6:14 a.m. The residue along the base of the backsplash. Dark. In the grout lines between the tiles. A thin film of something. I got the sponge from under the sink. I pressed it to the grout. The residue didn't transfer to the sponge the way it should have. It moved. Not dramatically. Slowly. Like it was deciding. Then it absorbed into the sponge. Old pipes, mineral deposits, iron bacteria. It's common in houses this age. Iron bacteria produce a dark, slick biofilm. It smells faintly metallic. It appears overnight. It is completely harmless. I looked it up that morning. Every symptom matched. I called a plumber. He came that afternoon. Ran a camera through the drain. Found nothing unusual. Said, could be surface condensation pulling up old deposits from the grout. Try a bleach solution along the base. I did. It didn't come back for 11 days. The 11 days. What I noticed during those 11 days, my right hand, the hand I'd used to hold the sponge, it ran warm, not hot. Warm, like the kind of warmth you feel when you've been holding a coffee cup for too long. Constant, low, not painful. I assumed circulation. I assumed I'd been cold and the house was warm and my body was adjusting. I assumed a lot of things in September. September 15th. Not in the grout this time. In the basin. A film across the bottom of the sink. The same dark quality, but more of it. And it had a surface quality I hadn't noticed the first time. It didn't reflect the overhead light the way water does. It absorbed it, like the light went in and didn't come back. The bleach treatment had disturbed something deeper in the pipes, loosened a biofilm colony that had resettled in the basin. I didn't touch it with my hand this time. I ran the hot water. It didn't rinse away. The water went through it, over it, like the substance and the water were operating independently. I turned the water off. I stood at the sink for a moment. Then I got a paper towel and pressed it to the basin. The substance transferred this time, completely, immediately, like it had been waiting for something absorbent. I threw the paper towel away. Then I took the trash bag out and put it in the outside bin. I washed my hands 4 times. That night I woke up at 3 a.m. My hand, the right one, was moving. I was lying on my back. My right hand was moving at the wrist. A slow rotation, back and forth, like someone turning a dial. I watched it for what felt like a long time. Then I stopped it with my left hand. It stopped. I lay there. My heart was doing something I didn't like. I told myself, hypnagogic movement. It happens at the threshold of sleep. Normal. Documented. I turned over. I didn't sleep again until dawn. A week later, no visible substance, but a smell. In the kitchen, faint. Appearing in the evening and fading by morning. Not rot, not mold, not any food smell. Something older, like the smell of a room that has been closed for a very long time. Air that has been the same air for decades. Old houses breathe differently in fall. Temperature differentials pull air through the structure in new patterns. Whatever was in the old pipes was off-gassing through the drain. Tyler visited that weekend. He came into the kitchen and stopped. He said, "What's that smell?" I said, "Old pipes. I'm dealing with it." He stood in the kitchen and looked around. He said, "It smells like something's been here for a long time." I said, "The house is from 1887. He said, "No, like recently, like something's been here recently and left." He couldn't explain it better than that. I told him I'd call the plumber again. He went to his room. At dinner, he said, "Mom, your hand." I looked down. My right hand was doing the rotation again, on the table, while I was eating with my left, slow, back and forth. I hadn't noticed. I stopped it. I said, "Carpal tunnel. It bothers me sometimes." He looked at me for a moment. He said, "Okay." He didn't look like he believed me. October 3rd, 6:40 a.m. The substance was back, in the grout, in the basin, and, new, a thin trail across the kitchen floor, from the base of the cabinet under the sink toward the center of the room, like something had moved. Water follows paths of least resistance. Old grout is porous. The condensation pattern had simply spread. I told myself that while I was looking at it. I told myself that clearly and deliberately. Then I got down on one knee and I looked at the trail on the floor. The trail didn't taper. Water trails taper. They narrow as the source diminishes. This trail was uniform width from the cabinet base to where it stopped. In the center of the kitchen, 6 feet from the sink. It stopped cleanly, not dried, not absorbed. Stopped. Like whatever made it had stopped making it. I pressed 2 fingers to the end of the trail. The warmth was immediate, not gradual, immediate. Up through my fingers, into my palm, up my wrist. I pulled my hand back, Looked at my fingers. They looked normal. They felt different, not painful, not numb. Different in a way I don't have a word for. Like they belonged to the same body but were receiving different information. I stood up. I called Tyler. He didn't answer. I went to work. That night, 11:38 p.m., I was brushing my teeth, the bathroom mirror, steam from the shower still on it. My reflection, partially visible through the condensation. Steam distorts. I was tired. Tired people misread visual information. My reflection blinked, and I didn't. I was standing still. I know I was standing still. My reflection blinked. A half second after I expected it. I stood there. I looked at myself through the condensation. And then I did something I wish I hadn't. I wiped the mirror, because I needed to see clearly. The condensation cleared, and for 1 second, the reflection showed an expression I wasn't making. Not a different face, my features. But the expression, interested, focused, on me. The way you'd look at something you were assessing. Then it matched. Then it was just me, tired, toothbrush in hand, standing in my bathroom at 11:38 p.m. I finished brushing my teeth. I went to bed. I did not look in the mirror again. For 11 days, I did not look in any mirror. Tyler came the following weekend. He found me in the kitchen. I was cleaning. Or I had been cleaning. He said, "Mom, how long have you been standing here?" I said, "I'm cleaning." He said, "You're not moving." I looked at my hands. I was holding a cloth, both hands, still, in the center of the kitchen, facing the sink. I didn't know how long I'd been standing there. My phone showed I'd come into the kitchen at 9:15 a.m. Tyler had found me at 11:40 a.m. Dissociation. I'd been under significant stress. Work, sleep disruption, the ongoing issue with the house. Dissociative episodes are a documented stress response. Tyler sat me down at the kitchen table. He brought me water. He said, "Mom, what's happening?" I told him about the substance, the hand, the mirror. He listened. When I finished, he said, "I'm staying this week." I said he had school. He said, "I'm staying." That night he sat at the kitchen table with his laptop and worked while I slept. At 2 a.m. he woke me up. He said, "It's back." I came to the kitchen. The substance was in the basin, more than before. Not a film, a volume, 2 inches deep, sitting in the basin, not draining, not moving, just present. Tyler had his phone out. I said, "Don't touch it." He said, "I'm not. I'm filming it." We stood at the sink and watched it. For 4 minutes we watched it. Then Tyler said, "Mom." His voice was different. I looked at him. He was looking at me, not at the sink. He said, "Your hand." My right hand was in the basin, submerged to the wrist. I had not put it there. I did not feel it in the basin. I felt nothing below my wrist. I pulled my arm out. The substance came with it, up to my elbow, dark, warm, and then it receded, down my arm, back into the basin, like a tide. 12 seconds, then my arm was clean, completely clean, no residue, no mark, like it had never been there. Tyler said nothing. I said nothing. Then I said, "Did you get that?" He looked at his phone. He said, "Yes." Tyler showed me the recording the next morning. He said, "I need you to watch this. I need you to watch the whole thing." I knew what it would show. My arm in the basin. The substance receding. exactly what I'd seen. The recording was 4 minutes and 38 seconds. The first 3 minutes, the basin, the substance, exactly as I remembered. At 3:14 in the recording, Tyler says, "Mom." I watched myself look at him, and then I watched myself smile. I did not smile. I know I didn't smile. I was terrified. In the recording, I smiled, wide, slow, the kind of smile that takes over a face completely. Then my arm goes into the basin, then the substance comes up my arm, and in the recording, while this is happening, I am still smiling. I watched it 3 times. The smile does not belong to any version of myself I recognize. It belongs to something that was using my face the way I use a tool, functionally, without feeling. I said, "That's not." Tyler said, "I know." I said, "That's not what I was doing." He said, "I know, Mom." He said it quietly, the way you talk to someone you're not sure of. I went to the basement. Tyler was asleep. 2:44 a.m. I don't know why I went. I know I didn't decide to. I know I was in bed. And then I was at the top of the basement stairs. Sleepwalking stress-induced parasomnia. I'd been aware of the possibility given my sleep disruption. The basement has a utility sink, old concrete basin. I use it for nothing. I'd used it for nothing since I moved in. The light was on. I don't leave that light on. I went down the stairs. The utility sink was full, not draining, full. And the substance was the source, not the drain. It was coming up, slowly, steadily, from the drain upward, into the basin. I stood at the sink, and I understood something. Not in words, not as a thought I formed, as a certainty that arrived fully assembled. It had been coming up for a long time, through the pipes, through the house, through the grout, into the basin, into the floor, into me. It had been here before the house. It would be here after. I was neither the first nor the last. I stood at the sink, and I knew this the way I know my own name, complete, unquestioned. Then Tyler turned on the basement light from the top of the stairs. He said, "Mom," and the certainty broke, like a surface tension giving way. I stood at the sink. I looked at the basin. I said, "Tyler, call someone." He said, "Who?" I said, "Anyone." Tyler came down the stairs. He looked at the sink. He looked at me. He said, "We're leaving right now." I said, "Okay." I didn't move. He came to me and took my left arm. I said, "Okay." I didn't move. He pulled. I moved, like something in me had decided to allow it. Not like my legs were responding to me. Like something that occupied me had decided Tyler's request was acceptable. I walked up the stairs. I walked through the kitchen. I walked out the front door. Tyler had his keys. We sat in his car in the driveway. The house was lit. Every light in the house was on. I had not turned them on. Tyler was on his phone. I sat in the passenger seat. My right hand was warm. Not the low constant warmth of the past weeks. Hot. The way it had been when I first pressed it to the grout line. The way it had been the morning of first contact. I looked at my hand. It looked normal. I turned it over. The palm. The lines of my palm. They were darker than they should have been. Not stained. Not discolored. Deeper. Like the lines had been pressed, made more of. I closed my hand. I put it in my lap. Tyler said, "I called Dad." I said, "Okay." He said, "He's coming." I said, "Okay." He said, "Mom, say something else." I looked at him. He was frightened. Not of the house, of me. I understood that. I said, "I'm here, Tyler." He said, "Are you sure?" I looked at my closed hand in my lap. I said, "I think so." We sat in the car until his father arrived. I did not go back into the house. We spoke to Tyler separately. He confirmed the recording. He sent it to us. We watched it. The smile is there, exactly as Carol described. We're not going to describe it further. We sent it to a behavioral analyst we work with. She watched it twice. She said, "The facial movement is real. This is not a filter or editing artifact." She said, "The expression has no relationship to what the body is experiencing." She said, "This is the expression of something that is observing the situation, not experiencing it, observing it." We asked Carol about the certainty she felt at the basement sink, the assembled knowledge that arrived without forming. She said, "That's the part I've thought about most." She said, "Because it didn't feel like being told something. It felt like remembering something I'd always known." She said, "And I don't know if that's more frightening or less." We found property records for the house on Essex Street, 11 owners since 1887. We traced 4 of them fully. 2 had left after less than 2 years. No forwarding address in either case. 1, a woman named Margaret Hollis, owner from 1931 to 1938, appeared in a single local newspaper record, a 1937 article. A neighbor had filed a complaint. The complaint described repeated disturbances, abnormal behavior, evidence of contamination from the water supply. Margaret Hollis died in the house in 1938. Cause of death listed in the record, cardiac event. She was 43 years old. Carol is 44. We didn't tell Carol this until after the recording. When we told her, she was quiet for a long time. Then she said, "That's not surprising." She said it calmly. That calmness, we'll come back to it. I haven't been back to the house. It's been 4 months. I'm staying with my sister in Marblehead. The house is listed for sale. I didn't go back to collect anything. Tyler went once with his father. He said the kitchen was clean. He said the sink was dry. He said the basement light was off. He said everything looked completely normal. He said there was no smell. He said the only thing was the mirror in the bathroom. He said the condensation on the mirror had dried into a pattern. He took a photo. He showed me. I looked at it for a long time. I told him I didn't know what it was. I know what it is. I'm not going to say. Some things, I've learned, get heavier when you name them. The hand is better. The warmth is mostly gone. The movement stopped about 6 weeks after I left the house. The lines in my palm, they're still deeper than they were. My doctor says it's a circulation change. Benign. I haven't told her what I think caused it. She wouldn't have a framework for it. I'm not sure I do either. What I have is this. Whatever is in that house has been there for a long time. It uses what's available. Water, pipes, surfaces, people. I don't know what it wants. I don't know what it is. I know that when I was standing at the basement sink at 2:44 in the morning, I knew everything. And I know that I don't know it anymore. And I don't know if that's because I left, or because it let me go, or because it took what it needed and finished. Those are three very different things. I don't know which one is true. I think about Tyler asking me, "Are you sure?" I said, "I think so." That's still my answer. 4 months later, I think so. I'm not sure that's enough. We told Carol about Margaret Hollis. We told her about the 2 owners who left without forwarding addresses. She listened. She said, "How many owners total?" We said 11. She said, "How many stayed more than 5 years?" We checked. 3. She said, "What happened to those 3?" We told her. 1 died in the house. 1, we couldn't find a death record or current record. 1, Margaret Hollis. Carol said, "So the ones who stayed long enough, something happened." We said yes. She said, "And the ones who left early, they were fine?" We said, as far as we could determine. She was quiet. Then she said, 4 months. She said, "I was there 14 months. We said, yes. Another silence. She said, "Can I ask you something?" We said yes. She said, "When I'm talking to you right now, does anything seem wrong?" We said no. She seemed completely herself, calm, precise, measured. She said, "That's what worries me." She said, "Because I don't feel like anything is wrong." And I felt like nothing was wrong when I was smiling at the sink. And I don't remember smiling. One last thing, Tyler sent us a second video, not the one from the kitchen, a different one. He recorded it the morning after the basement, Carol asleep in the passenger seat of his car. He wanted to document that she was physically okay. The recording is 40 seconds long. For the first 30 seconds, Carol asleep, breathing slowly, hand in her lap. At second 31, her right hand opens, slowly. The palm faces up. For 9 seconds, nothing. Then her hand closes again. She doesn't wake up. She doesn't move otherwise. Tyler told us he hadn't watched the full recording until last week. He said he called us immediately after. We asked Carol about it. She said she had no memory of her hand moving. She said, "I was asleep." We said, "Yes." She said, "Then it wasn't me." She said it without alarm, without fear, completely calm. That calmness, we've thought about it every day since.